The council chamber stretched across half a mile of polished crystal. Representatives from 47 species sat in their assigned seats, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. At the center podium, High Arbiter Velshara raised her 3 arms, calling for silence. "Today marks 200 years since the shroud consumed the Sol system," she announced. Her voice carried through translation devices to every being present. "Today we officially declare humanity extinct." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Some delegates bowed their heads. Others showed grief in ways unique to their species. Ambassador Zekthar of the Arconian delegation stood up. His blue skin darkened with emotion. "I vote against this declaration. We do not know they are dead. We never found bodies. We never found wreckage. The shroud still stands and we cannot see through it." Velshara's eyes softened as she looked at the old ambassador. Everyone knew he had been close to the humans. He had walked on Earth. He had called many of them friends. "Dear Zekthar," she said gently, "it has been 200 years. We sent 12 rescue fleets. None returned. We sent probes. They were destroyed. The shroud is a wall of energy we cannot penetrate. Whatever happened to humanity, they are beyond our reach now." Another delegate spoke up, a crystalline being from the shard worlds. "Perhaps this is for the best. Humans were dangerous. They developed weapons without asking permission. They questioned every rule. They were unstable. They were brilliant," Zekthar snapped back. "They brought us music we had never imagined. They solved the Kantari plague in 3 months when we had struggled for years. They taught us to dream bigger. They also nearly started 2 wars with their reckless behavior." The Shard World delegate replied coldly. Velshara raised her arms again. "Enough, we are not here to judge humanity. We are here to remember them and move forward. The vote will proceed." The voting began. One by one, species cast their decision. The chamber's central display showed the count climbing. When it finished, the result was clear. 39 species voted to declare humanity extinct. Only 8 voted against. "The decision is made," Velshara announced. "The Sol system will remain quarantined for another 50 years, then it will be opened for colonization. In 1 month, we will hold a memorial service at the edge of the shroud. All species are invited to pay their respects." The session ended. Delegates filed out slowly, speaking in hushed tones. Zekthar remained in his seat, staring at nothing. Velshara approached him. "I know this is hard for you, old friend. You did not know them like I did," Zekthar said quietly. "I remember a human named Sarah. She was a scientist. When her ship was damaged in the outer rim, she used spare parts and duct tape to fix it. She laughed while doing it. She said humans were too stubborn to die easily. That was a long time ago, Zekthar. 200 years is nothing, not for something as stubborn as humanity." Velshara placed a hand on his shoulder before walking away. Zekthar sat alone in the empty chamber, remembering Earth. He remembered blue skies and green forests. He remembered tall buildings and small towns. He remembered Sarah telling him about a concept humans loved. Hope. "Hope is stupid," she had said with a grin. "It ignores facts. It refuses to accept the impossible. But hope is what makes us human. We hope even when we should not." Zekthar stood and left the chamber. He would attend the memorial service. He would say goodbye to his friends even if he did not believe they were truly gone. 3 weeks later, Captain Ren Ock of the science vessel Quantum Threshold received her orders. She was to perform one final study of the shroud before the memorial service. It was meant to be routine, a formality before the system was officially closed. Rannoch was a Valorian, a species known for their scientific minds. She had studied the shroud for 20 years. She knew its patterns, its energy signatures, its behavior, or at least she thought she did. As her ship approached the shroud's edge, her sensors began showing strange readings. "Captain, we are detecting unusual fluctuations," her science officer reported. "The energy patterns are changing." Rannoch studied the data. The shroud had always been stable, a wall of swirling energy that never changed. But now something was different. The patterns were shifting, forming and reforming in ways that looked almost deliberate. "Run a full-spectrum analysis," she ordered. "I want to know what is causing this." The analysis took 6 hours. When the results came back, Rannoch stared at her screen in disbelief. "Captain," her science officer said slowly, "these patterns match human mathematical codes, the encryption protocols they used for deep space communication. That is impossible. The shroud is a natural phenomenon, is it? Captain, look at this. The officer displayed the pattern sequence. It is repeating. It is a countdown. Renok felt her blood run cold. How long? If this pattern continues at the current rate, it will reach 0 in exactly 9 days. 9 days. The memorial service is in 9 days. The officer nodded. Renok immediately sent a priority message to the Galactic Council. Within hours, the entire galaxy was talking about the discovery. Some called it a coincidence. Some called it a trick of perception, seeing patterns where none existed. But others wondered. 9 days later, over 300 ships gathered at the edge of the shroud. They came to remember humanity. They came to say goodbye. Some came because they were curious about the countdown. Zekthar stood on the bridge of his personal vessel, staring at the shroud. It looked the same as it had for 200 years. A wall of violent energy that hid the Sol system from view. The countdown reaches 0 in 10 minutes, a technician announced. All ships, maintain safe distance, Velshara ordered from her flagship. She had come to lead the memorial service personally. The minutes ticked by. 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute, nothing happened. Some delegates began to leave, disappointed. Zekthar closed his eyes. Perhaps he'd been wrong. Perhaps hope really was just stupid. Then the alarm started screaming, the shroud began to move. After 200 years of perfect stillness, it began to shift. The energy patterns that had been random became organized. The wall of chaos became a curtain drawing back. All ships, emergency power to shields, Velshara shouted. But the shroud was not attacking. It was parting. Like curtains opening at a theater. The energy wall split down the middle. Through the gap, something became visible. Zekthar opened his eyes and saw something impossible. Earth still existed. The blue planet hung in space, whole and alive. But surrounding it was a structure that should not exist. A massive ring of metal and energy that circled the star itself. A Dyson sphere. Something humanity had only theorized about 200 years ago. And coming through the parting shroud were ships. Hundreds of ships. They were massive, built in designs no species had ever seen. Human designs, but evolved, advanced, and clearly built for war. The lead ship broadcast on all frequencies. A woman's voice spoke calm and clear. This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of Terran Fleet Command. We apologize for our long silence. We have been busy. Hold your position. We need to talk, Zekthar began to laugh. It started as a chuckle and grew into full joyous laughter. Around him, his crew stared at him like he had lost his mind. They are alive, he said through his laughter. Those stubborn, impossible humans are alive. Captain Renok had seen many strange things in her career as a scientist. She had witnessed stars being born. She had observed black holes consuming matter. She had studied phenomena that most beings could only imagine. But nothing had prepared her for what was happening now. The shroud was not just parting. It was responding. Her sensors showed the energy patterns shifting and changing in ways that seemed controlled. The chaos was becoming order. Captain, I'm picking up additional signals from inside the shroud, her communications officer reported. They are using old galactic common protocols, but the encryption is human. What are they saying? They are asking us to wait. They say they have important information about a threat to the galaxy. Velshara's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is High Arbiter Velshara. Maintain defensive positions but do not fire. I repeat, do not fire unless fired upon. Zekthar was already hailing every ship he could reach. His voice shook with emotion. They are alive! I told you all. I told you they were alive. The human ships moved through the opening in the shroud with precise formation. They moved like a military fleet, disciplined and ready. As they emerged fully into normal space, the assembled delegates got their first good look at humanity's new vessels. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The ships had smooth hulls that seemed to absorb light. Strange energy signatures radiated from their engines. Weapon ports lined their sides. More weapons than any species considered reasonable for simple defense. The largest ship, clearly the flagship, was 3 miles long. It dwarfed most of the vessels in the memorial fleet. On its side, visible even from a distance, were words painted in English and Galactic Common. TFS Indomitable, a shuttle launched from the flagship, heading toward Velshara's command ship. The High Arbiter's voice came over the channel again. I will meet with the human representatives. All other ships, please stand by. Zekthar did not wait for permission. His ship moved forward following the shuttle. Several other vessels did the same. Velshara did not stop them. The meeting took place in the High Arbiter's conference room. The space was designed to accommodate many species, with different atmosphere controls and gravity fields. When the human delegation entered, everyone fell silent. Admiral Elena Vasquez walked in first. She was tall and moved with military precision. Her hair was gray and her face showed the lines of someone who had carried heavy responsibility for a long time. Behind her came 5 other officers, all wearing uniforms that looked both familiar and strange to those who remembered human military dress. Vasquez stopped in the center of the room and looked around at the assembled aliens. Then she smiled slightly. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance," she said. "We have been monitoring your communications. We know you declared us extinct 3 weeks ago. I am here to tell you that report was premature." Zekthar stepped forward. "Admiral Vasquez, I am Ambassador Zekthar. I knew your grandmother." Her name was Sarah Vasquez. She was a scientist. The Admiral's expression softened. "You are the Arconian she always talked about." "She is still alive, Ambassador. She is in stasis aboard my flagship. She asked me to find you when we finally came out." Zekthar felt his knees go weak. Velshara steadied him with one arm. "Explain," Velshara said firmly. "Explain all of this. The shroud, your disappearance, these ships, everything." Vasquez nodded. 203 years ago, humanity detected something. Our deep space telescopes picked up unusual energy signatures from beyond the galaxy. At first we thought it was just cosmic background noise, but as we studied it more, we realized it was something else. It was a fleet. She activated a holographic display. The image showed a mass of objects moving through space. They looked organic and mechanical at the same time, twisting and pulsing with dark energy. We called them the Devourers. We watched them consume 3 galaxies before they started heading toward ours. We calculated their speed and their path. They were coming here and they would arrive in approximately 200 years. The room erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions and accusations. Velshara demanded silence. "Humanity brought this information to the Galactic Council 205 years ago," Vasquez continued. "We showed you our data. We begged you to prepare. Do you remember what you did?" No one spoke, but some of the older delegates remembered. They had dismissed the human warnings as paranoia. They had called the data inconclusive. The galaxy had been at peace for centuries. They did not want to believe a threat was coming. "You did nothing," Vasquez said quietly. "You told us we were seeing patterns where none existed. You told us to stop being so aggressive, so militaristic, so human, so we made a choice." "You created the shroud," Renok said suddenly, understanding flooding through her. "You did not disappear. You hid yourselves. You gave up contact with the galaxy to prepare for a war you knew was coming." Vasquez nodded. "The shroud is a defensive field generated by technology we discovered in the ruins on Mars. It is ancient, older than any of our civilizations. We spent 5 years learning to use it, then we activated it and cut ourselves off from the galaxy." "For 200 years?" Velshara asked. "Your people lived in isolation for 200 years?" 9 generations, Vasquez said. 9 generations of humans lived and died knowing they might never see the outside galaxy again. But they knew why. They knew they were preparing to save a galaxy that had refused to save itself. She brought up another image. It showed the Sol system as it was now. Earth was there, but so were massive structures. Mars and Venus were covered in cities. The asteroid belt had been transformed into a network of space stations and weapons platforms. And surrounding the sun itself was the incomplete Dyson sphere. We used every resource we had. We mined every asteroid. We colonized every planet and moon. We built factories, shipyards, and training facilities. We studied the ancient technology we found. We prepared for war. "Why not contact us during all this time?" a delegate asked. "Why not tell us what you were doing?" "Because the Devourers are not stupid," Vasquez replied. "They hunt by detecting electromagnetic emissions. Communications, power generation, anything that sends signals into space draws them like moths to flame. The shroud blocks all emissions from getting out. If we had contacted you, we would have given away our position. The Devourers would have come here first and destroyed us before we were ready. And now?" Velshara asked. "Now they are here. The advance elements of their fleet entered the galaxy 3 weeks ago. They are consuming outer systems as we speak. In approximately 2 weeks, they will reach the main population centers. We are out of time. The choice is simple, fight together or die separately. The room fell silent. Every being present was trying to process what they had heard. Humanity had not abandoned them. Humanity had been trying to save them all along. Zekthar was the first to speak. What do you need? Vasquez looked at him with respect. Everything. We need your shield technology combined with our weapons. We need your faster-than-light communications to coordinate defense. We need your industrial capacity. And we need you to make a choice right now because every minute we waste is another minute the Devourers use to grow stronger. I need proof, another delegate said. Proof that this threat is real. Vasquez nodded to one of her officers. The woman stepped forward and activated another display. It showed footage recorded just days ago. The Devourers were attacking a system on the galaxy's edge. The images were horrifying. The machines were not just destroying. They were consuming, converting matter and energy into more of themselves. The Telos system fell 4 days ago, the officer said quietly. Population 15 billion. Survivors 0. The delegates stared at the footage. Some turned away. Others could not look away. How long until they reach our core systems? Velshara asked. At their current speed, 13 days. But they are accelerating. They get faster the more they consume. Velshara straightened. Despite the fear, despite the shock, she was still the High Arbiter. I will call an emergency session of the Galactic Council. But Admiral, you should know that many species will not believe this. Many will think this is a human trick, a way to gain power. Vasquez nodded grimly. I know. That is why I brought our entire fleet out of the Shroud. We are not asking for permission. We are going to fight the Devourers whether you join us or not. But we would rather fight with you than watch you die. She looked around the room at the various species represented. 200 years ago you called us paranoid. You called us warmongers. You were right. We are paranoid. We are warlike. Because humanity learned a long time ago that peace is a gift you fight to keep. We have been fighting for 200 years to give this galaxy a chance. Now we are asking if you will fight with us. Zekthar stepped forward and placed his hand over his heart, in the human gesture of sincerity he had learned so long ago. The Arconian fleet will fight beside you. One by one, other delegates stepped forward. Not all of them. Some still doubted, some still feared. But enough stepped forward to matter. Velshara looked at Vasquez. You said your grandmother is alive? I would like to meet her. Vasquez smiled slightly. She would like that. She has 200 years of stories to tell. Outside the conference room, through the viewports, the human fleet hung in space. Behind them, the Shroud was closing again, sealing the Sol system. Earth was hidden once more, but humanity was no longer hiding. The storm was coming. But humanity had built their own storm to meet it. The Galactic Council met in emergency session aboard a massive human carrier ship that Admiral Vasquez had designated for the meeting. The carrier was called Unity, though some delegates whispered that it should have been called Warning. Every surface showed human military efficiency. Every corridor had weapons ready. This was not a ship built for exploration. It was built for war. Zekthar walked through the corridors with Admiral Vasquez. She was taking him to see Sarah. 200 years ago, she had been his friend. Now she was sleeping in stasis, preserved until humanity decided it was safe to wake her. Why keep people in stasis? Zekthar asked. Why not let them live their lives? Resources, Vasquez replied simply. We had limited space, limited food, limited everything. We could not support our entire population and build a fleet at the same time, so we made a choice. Half the population lived and worked for 40 years. Then they went into stasis and we woke the next group. 9 generations, but half were always sleeping. That sounds like a terrible way to live. It was, but we are still alive. That is what matters. They reached the stasis facility. Rows upon rows of chambers stretched into the distance. Thousands of humans sleeping, waiting for a future that had finally arrived. Sarah's chamber was near the front. Vasquez entered a code, and the chamber began its wake-up sequence. It will take about an hour for her to fully wake. You can wait here if you like. I need to get back to the council session. Zekthar nodded. He sat down and watched the chamber, watching his old friend slowly return to life. In the council chamber, the debate was not going well. This is clearly a human power grab, a delegate from the Karathi Empire declared. They create a fake threat, hide themselves for 2 centuries building weapons, then emerge as the galaxy's saviors. I vote we demand they disarm immediately. Velshara rubbed her temples. The emergency session had been going for 6 hours and they had made no progress. Half the delegates believed the Devourer threat was real. The other half thought it was human manipulation. Admiral Vasquez stood calmly at the center podium, her officers beside her. She had been answering accusations and questions for hours without showing any frustration. With respect, delegate, we do not need to create fake threats. We have real ones. She displayed the star map again. Red dots marked systems that had gone dark in the past week. 7 systems, 15 billion dead. These systems are not responding to any communications. Survey ships sent to investigate have not returned. That proves nothing, the Karathi delegate insisted. There could be many explanations. Then go investigate yourself, Vasquez said flatly. Take your ships to the Telos system. Look at what is left. If you survive, come back and tell us what you found. The delegate fell silent. No one volunteered to go. Captain Rennock stood up. She had been quiet during most of the debate, but now she spoke. I have analyzed the human data. Their mathematics are correct. Their predictions match the observed system failures. The timeline fits. Either this is an elaborate deception spanning 200 years or the threat is real. I believe it is real. You have been a human sympathizer since you discovered their countdown, another delegate accused. I am a scientist, Rennock replied coldly. I follow evidence. The evidence says we are in danger. Velshara stood up. Enough, we will vote. Each species will decide if they want to join the human defense fleet or return to their home systems. Those who wish to fight will coordinate with Admiral Vasquez. Those who wish to leave may do so. The vote begins now. The votes came in slowly. Some species voted immediately to join. Others hesitated. Some asked for time to consult their home governments. In the end, 23 species joined the defense fleet immediately. 15 said they needed more time. 9 voted to return home and defend their own systems. It was not the unity Vasquez had hoped for, but it was something. Very well, Velshara said. Those who are staying, Admiral Vasquez will brief you on the defense plan. Those who are leaving, may fortune smile on you. As the delegates who were leaving filed out, Vasquez pulled up the tactical display. It showed the galaxy with the Devourer fleet advancing like a dark tide. It also showed the positions of human and allied forces. The Devourers are not random, she began. They follow a pattern. They target high-energy signatures first. That means densely populated systems, industrial worlds, and military installations. They are currently consuming the outer rim. In 9 days, they will reach the mid-rim. In 15 days, they will hit the core worlds. How do we stop them? A military commander from the Selenite Compact asked. We do not stop them. We slow them down. We make them pay for every system they take. We force them to commit resources. And then when they are stretched thin, we hit them with everything we have. She zoomed in on a system called Andari Expanse. This is where we make our stand. The Expanse is a natural choke point. 3 major hyperspace routes converge there. The Devourers will have to pass through it to reach the core worlds. We fortify it and we hold it. Can we hold it? Velshara asked. If everyone commits their full military strength, if we coordinate perfectly, and if we get a little lucky, then yes, maybe. The Devourers are powerful, but they have a weakness. They are networked. They share information and coordinate through a central command structure. If we can disrupt that network, even temporarily, they become less effective. How do we disrupt it? Vasquez smiled grimly. That is the hard part. We need to get close to their command ship. Very close. Close enough to deploy an EMP weapon designed specifically to interfere with their network. It is a suicide mission, but humanity has volunteers ready. You would sacrifice your people? A delegate asked, shocked. We have been sacrificing for 200 years. What is a few more lives if it saves billions? The room fell silent. The casual way Vasquez talked about sacrifice disturbed some of the delegates. But others understood. Humanity had become something different during their isolation. They had become a species living on a permanent war footing. The briefing continued for hours. Vasquez explained human tactics, weapons, and strategies. Some of the concepts were familiar. Others were completely new. Humans had developed ways of fighting that other species had never considered. You will notice our doctrine focuses on what we call acceptable losses, Vasquez explained. We assume we will take casualties. We plan for it. We make sure those casualties achieve something. This is different from how most of you fight. You try to minimize losses. We accept them as the price of victory. A Valorian commander spoke up. That sounds incredibly cold. It is, Vasquez agreed. War is cold, but we learned something 200 years ago. Sometimes the only way to save most people is to sacrifice some people. We choose to be the ones who sacrifice. As the briefing ended, delegates left to contact their fleets and home governments. Vasquez remained at the podium, staring at the tactical display. One of her officers approached. "Admiral, do you think they will really fight with us?" "Some will. Some will not. It does not matter. We will fight anyway, even if we are alone, especially if we are alone. That is what humans do." Back in the stasis facility, Sarah Vasquez finally woke up. Her eyes opened slowly. She took a breath and looked around. Zekthar was there, older now, but still recognizable. "Zekthar," she said weakly. "Is that you?" "It is me, old friend. How long was I asleep?" 40 years this time. Is it over? Did we win?" Zekthar smiled sadly. "It is not over. It is just beginning. But your granddaughter is doing you proud. She brought your fleet out of hiding. She is preparing to fight the Devourers." Sarah tried to sit up. "The Devourers are here? Already?" "Yes, they arrived early." "Then why are you here? You should be preparing." "I am. But first I wanted to see my friend. I waited 200 years. I can wait 1 more hour." Sarah smiled. "You always were sentimental for an Arconian." She paused. "Did the Council believe us this time?" "Some did. Some still do not. Humans are very hard to trust, apparently. We did lock ourselves away for 2 centuries. Can you blame them?" "I suppose not. They talked for an hour, catching up on 200 years of history." Sarah was amazed by what humanity had built. Zekthar was amazed that she was still alive. Finally, Sarah said, "I need to see Elena. I need to see what my family has become." They made their way to the bridge. Admiral Vasquez was coordinating with fleet commanders, organizing ships into battle groups. When Sarah entered, the entire bridge stopped. Elena turned and saw her grandmother. For a moment, the hard military officer disappeared. She was just a woman seeing her grandmother for the first time. "Grandmother," she said simply. "You grew up well," Sarah replied. "Your mother would be proud." She was. Before she went back into stasis, they embraced. Around them, the bridge crew politely looked away. "Show me," Sarah said. "Show me what we built." Elena brought up the display showing the human fleet. Hundreds of ships, all built during the long isolation. Ships designed by people who knew they would never see them used. Ships built by hands that would never see peace. "We did it," Sarah said quietly. "We actually did it. We did. And now we have to use them." Sarah looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Devourers. "Then let us make sure 200 years of sacrifice was not wasted." Elena nodded. She turned to her communications officer. "Send a message to all ships, human and allied. Begin movement to Andari Expanse. We make our stand there." The officer sent the message. Across hundreds of ships, crews began preparations. Engines powered up. Weapons came online. Soldiers checked their equipment. The memorial service had turned into a war council. The galaxy that had declared humanity dead was about to learn what humanity had become in their long silence. They had become something the galaxy had not seen in a very long time. They had become an army ready to face the end of everything, and they were not planning to lose. The journey to Andari Expanse took 6 days. For 6 days, humanity and their allies raced against time, knowing the Devourers were consuming systems behind them. Every hour brought news of another world going dark. Every day, the red zones on the star maps grew larger. Admiral Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the Allied fleet assemble. It was strange to see so many different ship designs working together. Human warships with their dark hulls and heavy weapons, Arconian cruisers with their elegant curves and powerful shields. Valorian science vessels converted for combat. Selenite carriers launching fighter wings. It was not enough. Vasquez knew it was not enough, but it was what they had. "Admiral, we are receiving reports from the outer picket lines," her tactical officer announced. "The Devourers have taken the Kelos system. They are moving faster than predicted." "How much faster?" They will reach Andari in 7 days, not 9. Vasquez felt her stomach tighten. 7 days. They would barely have time to set up proper defenses. Send word to all construction crews. They have 5 days to finish fortifications. After that, they evacuate or stay and fight. Yes, Admiral. Zekathar entered the bridge. He had been working with the other ambassadors, trying to convince more species to join the fight. His face showed his exhaustion. How many more? Vasquez asked. 3 species agreed to send support fleets. They will arrive in 4 days. He paused. 5 more species voted to fortify their home systems and wait. Wait for what? For us to stop the Devourers, I assume. If we win, they will claim they were always with us. If we lose, they will try to negotiate or run. There is no negotiating with the Devourers. I know, you know. But fear makes people stupid. Zekathar looked at the tactical display. We are assembling almost 800 ships at Andari. How many are the Devourers bringing? Vasquez hesitated. Then she brought up the enemy formation data. The display showed the Devourer fleet. Over 2,000 contacts. And more were being created every day from consumed matter. Zekathar's skin turned pale blue. Those are terrible odds. Yes, but we have advantages. We choose the battlefield. We have defensive positions, and we have something they do not. What is that? We have something to lose. They are just machines following programming. We are fighting for our homes, our families, our future. That makes us dangerous. Captain Renok's science vessel arrived at Andari on the 3rd day. She immediately began deploying sensor networks and scanning equipment. If the humans were right about the Devourer network weakness, she needed to confirm it. She worked with human scientists, and she was impressed by their knowledge. They had made incredible advances during their isolation. In some fields, they had surpassed the rest of the galaxy. How did you progress so quickly? She asked Dr. Chen, a human physicist who looked far too young to be leading weapons research. Necessity, Chen replied. When you know the end is coming, you work harder. We did not have time for academic debates or research politics. We had a problem and a deadline, so we solved it. But some of this technology is completely new. The energy weapons, the shield harmonics, the quantum targeting systems. These should have taken centuries to develop. They did, sort of. We found ruins on Mars when we first colonized it. Ancient technology, millions of years old. We had been studying it slowly, carefully, the way academics do. When the shroud went up, we stopped being careful. We took risks. We experimented. Some experiments failed and people died, but we learned from the failures and kept going. Renok was quiet for a moment. You sacrificed scientists for faster progress? We sacrificed volunteers who knew the risks. Everyone who worked on the dangerous projects knew they might not survive. They did it anyway because the alternative was worse. Your species is terrifying. Chen smiled sadly. Yes, but we are your terrifying species. We are terrifying the things that want to kill you. At the center of the Andari expanse, construction crews worked around the clock. They were building weapons platforms, shield generators, and defensive stations. The structures were not elegant. They were functional, built quickly with human efficiency. Velshara visited one of the construction sites. She watched humans working in spacesuits, welding massive beams into place. They worked in shifts that lasted 12 hours. They slept in cramped quarters on construction ships. They ate basic rations, and they never complained. Your people are very dedicated, she said to the construction foreman. We have been waiting 200 years for this, High Arbiter. None of us want to miss it because we were too slow. Do you not fear death? Of course we fear death. We just fear failure more. On the 4th day, fleet exercises began. Human officers tried to train Allied commanders in their tactics. It did not go smoothly. You want us to charge directly at the enemy? A Karathi commander asked in disbelief. That is suicide. It is called a hammer strike, the human instructor explained patiently. Your shields take the first hit, while they are focused on you. Our ships hit them from the sides. It only works if you commit fully. Our shields will fail. Our ships will be destroyed. Some of them, yes. That is why we do not send your entire fleet. We send enough to make them commit their forces, then we exploit the opening. You are asking us to use our people as bait. I am asking you to trust us. We have trained for this. We know what we are doing. The Karathi commander was silent for a long moment. Finally he said, If you are wrong, I will haunt you in the afterlife. If I am wrong, I will already be dead and you can yell at me personally. Despite the tension, the training continued. Slowly, the Allied fleet began to work together. They learned human hand signals. They practiced coordinated jumps. They drilled emergency formations. Sarah Vasquez came out of medical clearance on the 5th day. She immediately requested assignment to a ship. Elena tried to refuse. "Grandmother, you just woke up from 40 years of stasis. You need time to recover. I have been recovering for 40 years. I need to fight. You are a scientist, not a soldier. I am whatever this fleet needs me to be. And right now, you need someone who understands the ancient technology. I studied those Mars ruins longer than anyone currently alive. Put me on a research vessel or put me on a warship. I do not care. But do not make me sit in a medical bay while everyone else fights." Elena sighed. She knew that tone. Her grandmother had not changed in 200 years. "Fine. You will serve on the quantum threshold with Captain Rennock. She is leading the science team that will analyze Devourer weaknesses during the battle." "Good. When do I start?" "Right now," Sarah reported to Rennock's ship immediately. The Valorian captain was surprised to receive a human scientist who was technically over 200 years old. "Dr. Vasquez, your granddaughter speaks highly of your skills. My granddaughter wants to keep me safe. I want to be useful. Put me to work, Captain." Rennock liked her immediately. On the 6th day, the last Allied reinforcements arrived. 3 more species had sent their fleets. The human ships helped them integrate into the formation. Zekthar spent the day visiting different ships, speaking with crews. He found fear, but he also found determination. Soldiers from a dozen species all preparing to face an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. On a selenite carrier, a young pilot asked him, "Ambassador, do you think we can win?" Zekthar thought about his answer carefully. "I think the humans believe we can win, and I have learned never to bet against humanity when they believe in something, even against these odds, especially against these odds. Humans are most dangerous when things are impossible." On the 7th day, the forward scouts sent back their final reports. The Devourers were 12 hours away. The massive enemy fleet was moving in a coordinated formation, consuming everything in their path. Vasquez called a final commander's meeting. Every ship captain, every fleet leader, every important officer gathered in the virtual conference room. "This is it," Vasquez said simply. "In 12 hours, we face the largest threat our galaxy has ever known. Some of you will die today. Many of you will die today. But if we do this right, if we execute the plan, we can stop them here. We can save billions of lives. We can give the galaxy a future." She paused, looking at the faces from dozens of species. 200 years ago, humanity tried to warn you. You did not listen. We are not angry about that. We understand. Peace makes people comfortable. Comfort makes people doubt warnings. But now the warnings are reality. Now you see what we saw, and you chose to stand with us. For that you have our respect and our gratitude. The Devourers are strong, but we are stronger. Not because we have better weapons or bigger ships. We are stronger because we choose to fight. We choose to stand together. We choose to say that this galaxy belongs to us, and we will not surrender it to machines. So in 12 hours, when they arrive, show them what living beings can do when we refuse to die. Show them that consciousness is not a weakness. Show them that hope is not foolish. Show them that we are not prey. All ships prepare for battle. Make your ancestors proud. The meeting ended. Captains returned to their ships. Crews performed final checks. Soldiers said prayers or wrote letters or simply sat in silence. Admiral Vasquez remained on the bridge of the Indomitable. Elena came to stand beside her grandmother. 200 years, Sarah said quietly. 200 years of preparation, all coming down to one battle. We are ready, Elena replied. I know. I just hope it is enough. They stood together watching the sensors. Slowly at the edge of detection range, contacts began to appear. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. The Devourer fleet was arriving. All ships, battle stations, Elena ordered. Weapons hot. Shields maximum. This is what we were born for. Across 800 ships, alarms sounded. Weapons powered up. Soldiers took their positions. The greatest fleet the galaxy had assembled in centuries prepared to face an enemy that had destroyed civilizations older than any of them. The storm was here, and humanity was ready to meet it. The Devourers came like a plague. Their ships were not built. They were grown, twisted masses of metal and organic matter that pulsed with dark energy. They moved in perfect coordination, thousands of ships acting as one entity. They did not communicate. They did not hesitate. They simply advanced to consume. All ships hold formation, Admiral Vasquez ordered. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped the armrests of her command chair. Wait for my signal. The human fleet formed the center of the defensive line. 800 ships spread across the Andari expanse, positioned around weapons platforms and shield generators. The defensive structures hummed with power, creating overlapping fields of protection. On the quantum threshold, Captain Renyok watched her sensors. Beside her, Sarah Vasquez analyzed the Devourer energy signatures. They are definitely networked, Sarah confirmed. I am detecting a central command signal. It is coming from the largest ship in the back of their formation. Can we jam it? Not at this range. We would need to get much closer. Renyok nodded. That was what the suicide mission was for. A small strike team would penetrate the Devourer formation and deploy an EMP weapon near their command ship. It would disrupt the network for maybe 10 minutes. That might be enough. Captain, they are entering weapons range, her tactical officer announced. All power to forward shields. Prepare to collect combat data. The Devourers opened fire first. Beams of dark energy lanced across space, striking the defensive platforms. Shields flared and held. Then the Allied fleet returned fire. The battle began. Vasquez watched the tactical display as colored lines showed weapons fire from both sides. Execute hammer strike. Karathi fleet, advance. The Karathi commander had been nervous during training, but now in actual combat he followed the plan perfectly. 20 Karathi warships charged directly at the Devourer formation. Shields at maximum. The Devourers focused on them immediately, concentrating their fire. Now, Vasquez ordered. Arconian and human wings, flank speed. Hit them from both sides. While the Devourers were focused on the Karathi charge, 50 ships appeared on their flanks. Human railguns and Arconian plasma cannons opened fire simultaneously. Devourer ships exploded, their twisted hulls unable to withstand the coordinated assault. But for every Devourer destroyed, 3 more took its place. They adapted quickly, shifting their formation to defend their flanks. The Karathi ships were taking heavy damage now. 3 exploded as their shields failed. 5 more were severely damaged. Karathi fleet, withdraw, Vasquez ordered. Selenite fighters cover their retreat. Hundreds of small fighters swarmed forward, their weapons barely scratching Devourer hulls but creating enough chaos to let the Karathi ships escape. The pattern repeated across the battlefield. Human tactics against Devourer numbers. Every Allied victory cost ships. Every Devourer defeat was replaced by reinforcements. They are grinding us down, Sarah said, watching from the quantum threshold. They can afford losses. We cannot. How long until our losses become critical? Renyok asked. At this rate, 6 hours. Maybe less. They had been fighting for 2 hours when the Devourers deployed their galaxy killer. It appeared at the back of their formation. A massive sphere covered in strange symbols that hurt to look at. Energy began building around it, reality itself seeming to bend. What is that? Velshara demanded from her flagship. Sarah's sensors gave her the answer first. It is a reality warping device. They are going to create a tear in space-time. If they activate that, it will consume everything in this sector, possibly the entire expanse. Can we destroy it? Not from here. The Devourers are protecting it too well. Vasquez made a decision. This is it. Launch the suicide mission now. Admiral, they are not ready. The window was supposed to be later. We do not have later. Launch now. A small ship detached from the human fleet. It was fast and heavily shielded but lightly armed. Inside were 12 volunteers from 6 different species. Zekthar was among them. Elena had tried to stop him. Ambassador, you are too important. We need you for after the battle. There will not be an after if we fail, Zekthar had replied. I am old. I have lived a good life. Let me end it doing something that matters. Now his ship raced toward the Devourer formation. Enemy fire concentrated on them immediately. Their shields held for 30 seconds, then 40, then a minute. Shields at 30%, their pilot announced. Keep going, Zekthar ordered. We just need to get close enough. Behind them, the Allied fleet launched everything they had. Every weapon, every missile, every ounce of firepower was directed at the Devourers to create a distraction. Ships exploded on both sides. The space between the fleets became a graveyard. The suicide ship penetrated deeper. Shields at 10%, then 5. Then they failed completely. The ship's armor began melting under enemy fire. We are not going to make it, the pilot said. Yes, we are, Zekthar replied. He armed the EMP weapon manually. "Get us as close as you can, then point us at the command ship." "Ambassador, if we do that, I know." "Do it," the pilot understood. He killed the engines and used the last of their maneuvering thrusters to aim the ship directly at the massive Devourer command vessel. They were on a collision course now, unable to stop or turn. "Everyone, it has been an honor," Zekthar said to his crew. Then he activated the EMP weapon. The explosion was visible across the entire battlefield. The suicide ship vanished in a burst of electromagnetic energy that rippled through space. The Devourer command ship's hull cracked and sparked. And for exactly 8 minutes and 17 seconds, the Devourer network went offline. The effect was immediate. The coordinated Devourer fleet became confused. Ships stopped mid-maneuver. Formations broke apart. They were still dangerous, but they were no longer a unified force. "Now," Vasquez roared. "All ships, full attack! Hit them while they are blind." The Allied fleet surged forward. This was the moment they had planned for. This was what 200 years of preparation had been building toward. Human ships targeted the Galaxy Killer device. Concentrated fire from 50 vessels struck it simultaneously. The sphere began to crack. Energy leaked out, wild and uncontrolled. Then it exploded, taking a dozen Devourer ships with it. Across the battlefield, individual Devourer ships were picked apart. Without coordination, they were dangerous but manageable. Allied ships worked in teams, isolating and destroying enemy vessels one by one. But 8 minutes was not long. When the Devourer network came back online, they had lost over half their fleet. The survivors immediately began to retreat. "They are running," an officer announced in disbelief. "Do not let them regroup," Vasquez ordered. "All ships pursue and destroy. Do not let a single one escape." The Allied fleet gave chase. For 6 more hours, they hunted the retreating Devourers. Every ship destroyed was one less that could return with reinforcements. Every kill was one less threat to the galaxy. When the Indomitable's weapons finally fell silent, the battle was over. The Devourers were gone. Dead or fled, it did not matter. They were no longer a threat to this sector, but the cost had been terrible. Of the 800 ships that started the battle, only 400 survived. Thousands were dead. Among them was Zekthar and his entire crew. Elena Vasquez stood on her bridge looking at the casualty reports. Her face showed no emotion, but Sarah could see the grief in her eyes. "Was it worth it?" Elena asked quietly. Sarah put a hand on her granddaughter's shoulder. "We saved the galaxy. We proved that living beings can defeat entropy and death. Yes, it was worth it, but that does not make it hurt less." Across the fleet, crews were recovering. Damaged ships limped back to defensive positions. Medics worked frantically to save the wounded. Engineers began repairs on ships that should have been scrapped. Velshara broadcast a message to all surviving ships. "Today we face the end of everything. Today we said no. We lost many friends. We lost family. We lost heroes like Ambassador Zekthar, who gave everything for our future. We will honor them. We will remember them, and we will make sure their sacrifice meant something. The Devourers are defeated, but scattered elements remain in the outer sectors. The fight is not over, but today we proved we can win. Today, humans and aliens stood together and saved the galaxy. Let us never forget what we accomplished together." 3 days later, a memorial service was held in the Andari Expanse. Ships from all over the galaxy arrived to pay respects to the fallen. Humans and aliens mourned together, united by shared loss. Admiral Vasquez stood before a wall of names. Every person who died in the battle was listed. She found Zekthar's name and placed her hand on it. "You believed in us when no one else did," she said softly. "You waited 200 years. You gave your life at the end. I will make sure everyone knows what you did." Sarah joined her. He would have been happy with this ending. Dying for something important was always his wish. It should not have been necessary, but it was. And he did it anyway. That is what makes heroes, Elena. Not the wanting to die, but the choosing to when it matters. They stood together in silence. A week later, the shroud around Earth began to deactivate permanently. For the first time in 200 years, the Sol system was visible to the galaxy. Ships began arriving immediately, wanting to see what humanity had built. They found a fortress system. Every planet was industrialized. Every moon had a purpose. The incomplete Dyson sphere hung around the sun like a monument to human determination. But they also found gardens, parks, museums. Humanity had not forgotten beauty during their long preparation. They had simply hidden it behind walls of steel. A new galactic council formed with humanity as founding members. No longer were they the young species that asked for permission. They were the species that had saved everyone else, but Vasquez refused a position of power. We did not do this to rule the galaxy. We did this because it needed to be done. Govern yourselves. We will help if asked, but we are tired of war. The galaxy began to rebuild. It would take decades to recover from the Devourer attack, but they had time now. They had a future. On Earth, in a memorial garden, a statue was built. It showed a human and an Arconian standing together, looking toward the stars. The inscription read simple words in every galactic language. They thought we were gone. We were just getting ready. Admiral Elena Vasquez retired from military service and became a teacher. She taught young beings from many species about the importance of preparation, sacrifice, and hope. Her students would later become the leaders who guided the galaxy through its recovery. Sarah Vasquez returned to scientific research, but she never went back into stasis. She had slept enough. She spent her remaining years studying the stars with Renok, discovering new wonders in a galaxy that had been given a second chance. The Indomitable was decommissioned and turned into a museum. Visitors from across the galaxy walked its corridors, seeing the bridge where humanity made its stand. They looked at the weapons that saved them. They read the names of the dead who made survival possible. And they understood finally what humanity had known all along. Peace is precious. Peace is fragile. Peace is worth fighting for, even if it takes 200 years. Even if it costs everything. Even if no one believes you when you warn them. Humanity had disappeared to save the galaxy. They had returned when needed most. And in doing so, they had proved that hope was not stupid. That stubbornness could save lives. That sometimes the species everyone doubts becomes the hero everyone needs. The storm had broken. The darkness had been beaten back. And in the light that remained, 1,000 species looked at humanity and understood why they had the saying, humanity, fuck yeah. Because when the end came, when death arrived wearing the face of inevitable destruction, humanity had looked at it and said, not today, not ever. We will fight you with everything we have, and we will win. And they had.